You guys remember a company called OceanGate? Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be reacting to today. 10 scary OceanGate disaster moments. Now, I don't know what this entails. I know it's definitely going to talk about the Suburban. You can see the little picture right here. I don't know if it's talking about the whole thing. I got to do some investigations on it behind it. Without further ado, like, subscribe, dislike if you dislike the video. We're going to dive right into this and see what's going on, what's cooking here.
Watch Mojo. And today we're looking at the most chilling moments from OceanGate's operations before and after the Titan implosion.
It's been a long process to ensure that Titan can go to the Titanic repeatedly and safely.
20 hours.
But then he explained that like one of the batteries kind of went kaput and we were having trouble using the electronic drops for the weights.
Not a lot of people outside the world of ocean exploration were aware of Titan before it disappeared in 2023, and those who did fell into two camps.
Before I even continue to play this, I remember watching one of my favorite YouTubers, Some Ordinary Gamers. He was reading an article where I guess it failed all safety guidelines, and the CEO of the company dismissed it and said, "Hey, you just got to take a chance at life." Yeah, then not only that, you have to sign a death waiver. If you have to sign a death waiver, ladies and gentlemen, I bet you not to do it, right? Like, you don't know what can happen. And especially you got idiots, right? Like what just took place, taking the lives of others. God rest their soul.
Those rich and naive enough to trust Stockton Rush, and those who were horrified by what he was doing.
Did we change our
Hang on a second. We are starting to come up.
We are?
Yep.
One business
Oh
magnet
my
from
gosh.
British Columbia took 2 different trips on the sub in 2022, and in one of them, there was a malfunction that left them underwater for 20 hours.
Wow.
We had a bit of issue with one of the battery banks. Stockton had mentioned.
How is this company still around? Well,
seeing full vertical thruster availability.
Something malfunctioned, and the sub couldn't drop the ballasts it uses to make itself buoyant enough to rise to the surface. So they were all stuck down there, waiting until the failsafe, ropes that dissolve over time, kicked in. The warnings.
A carbon fiber sub that's essentially a home build with no independent oversight is not up for the task.
Engineers and experts
You cannot
calling
make this
and
up.
writing to Stockton Rush for years before the catastrophic implosion, warning him over and over again about one thing: carbon fiber. The carbon fiber hole was the root of all OceanGate's problems. And the reason the sub failed like it did.
Stockton threatened me with legal action if I went any further with my course of action.
The problem is that carbon fiber is a composite that weakens over time as it's exposed to repeated strain, meaning...
wait, so you're telling me the CEO of the company didn't care about, well, no, he didn't. I just told you guys. It just baffles me, right? Like, if I'm about to go in the submarine and I'm signing a death waiver, you best believe I'm going to do my investigation on that sub. I have to check everything's out from top to bottom, A to Z to 1 to 10. I got to make sure that this thing is safe with my son that doesn't want to go with me, which actually happened. He didn't want to go. The father wanted him to go. Yeah.
That on every
R.I.P.
single dive, it gets weaker and weaker. More dives doesn't prove that the carbon
Unbelievable.
fiber is safe. It just brings it closer each time to the point at which it isn't, with experts saying that when that happened, there would be a catastrophic failure. And that's exactly what took place
Catastrophic.
in
No
2018.
crap.
And then would you describe Titan, based on the information that you know, as an experimental manned submersible?
Yeah.
Dive 80.
Do you have any questions about what's going on, about acoustic monitoring, about carbon fiber problems we had, rumors of problems we had, actual problems we had?
Titan had a real-time monitoring system that would be able to detect the sound of a potential failure before it happened. And actually, the real-time monitoring system does seem to have worked. Kind of. On Titan's 80th dive on July 15, 2022, nearly a year before the implosion, the RMT detected a, quote, loud acoustic event, which was the carbon fiber hull failing.
Mission 4, when we got to the surface, Scott was piloting.
Yo, first of all, if okay, they know about this mission happening, right? Why didn't they just stop this from happening? Like all these failed attempts, all these failed mechanisms failing, you pretty much got a whole rack sheet written in stone. What's not stopping you guys from these guys reaching their ultimate end?
Loud bang, not a soothing sound. No. But on the surface.
If Rush and the other engineers at OceanGate had heeded this and realized that the sub was a ticking time bomb from this point on, the implosion wouldn't have happened.
The first time the carbon fiber made a noise in that hull, it was extremely loud. It was like a gunshot.
Although
first of all, can you imagine, right? Like you're in that thing and you're going to the depth to go see the Titanic and you're hearing crinklings and cracks. I would have been, bro, I think I would have, me in there, me knowing I'm about to die, I think I would have fought. I would have, yeah.
That Rush would have built another identical sub, as he'd already done before.
That thing don't even look safe.
You don't want to be in a submarine and hear those kinds of sounds.
No.
There have been many documentaries released after the implosion, and a handful made before, following Rush's dives to the Titanic. But one of the most disturbing things Rush said about the safety of Titan was his personal solution to the cracking sounds.
Those click sounds, that wasn't a mouse clicking. And you could feel it. I was in the dome. I could feel these things popping.
You can feel it? Yo, can you imagine the kid that actually was on there, how he was panicking?
Carbon fiber buckling and tearing under the pressure of the ocean. And he solved this by wearing earplugs so that it didn't bother him anymore.
Wow.
Put earplugs in. It worked much better.
You just ignored it, right?
Yeah.
This was after journalists and other experts pointed out that the cracking was a danger sign and that it meant the integrity of the hull was being slowly eroded. Yet again, ego got in the way of safety.
That's what I was going to say. His ego cost everyone else their lives.
It's like you're paying somebody to play Russian roulette, and there's really 3 bullets in the chamber, but you're told there's only 1. That's not right.
The waiver.
I don't mean to be laughing, but I don't know why that was funny.
It's very dangerous down there.
What could be scarier than being asked to sign a waiver that acknowledges you have a very real risk of dying 4,000
What did I say?
the sea? A legal case from the family of one of the victims, Paul-Henri Nargelet, is ongoing. It looks like OceanGate thought that this waiver would absolve them of ever being sued should something go wrong.
The team always says, there's no guarantee you're going to see the bow. There's no guarantee you're going to get down there, because there's so many variables.
We don't know how this case will go, and whether anybody other than Rush, who also perished in the sub, is liable for what happened. But there's no small number of people out there who refused to dive on Titan. Suleiman Dawood, one of the victims, nearly backed out until being persuaded to dive by his father.
And
like I just said,
if it wasn't an accident, it then has to be some degree of crime.
The sound of the implosion.
Titan confirms they're on the bow of the Titanic.
On July 18th, the sub lost contact with the surface, and a media frenzy began. But as
that part, I will never forget the day I was in my office with my colleague who was like, "What? They're lost? Yeah, they ain't coming back." It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack in which the ocean.
As we now
lack
know,
of oxygen.
The implosion was recorded when it happened. Footage was released in May 2025 that showed Wendy Rush, Stockton's wife, on the surface, reacting to a sound and not realizing that she'd just heard the instantaneous death of her husband.
All right, hold on. I gotta hear that again.
Elsewhere, And the U.S. Navy eventually announced that it had already detected the sound of a possible implosion from the wreckage of the Titanic, which director James Cameron has talked about in various interviews.
They were informed by naval intelligence that an implosion event was tracked to the coordinate of the Titanic wreck site.
He said he and his fellow submarines had contacts in the Navy and knew that an implosion had already happened days before the families and public were informed. 96 hours of air.
The mini-sub, called the Titan, vanished an hour and 45 minutes into its 4-kilometer plunge.
Despite the implosion being recorded and heard the moment it happened, an intense media circus ensued with 24/7 coverage of the missing submarine.
The Titan carries 96 hours worth of oxygen, and a third of that is now gone. They may have as little as 60 hours before breathing becomes impossible.
There were constant reports counting down how many hours of air the sub had, waiting for its various fail-safes to kick in and hopefully for it to surface. This was derided after the fact as offering false hope to the families of the victims when the Navy knew the sub was already lost.
Was he just like, is this like his ultimate goal? Create his own thing and go down to the Titanic just to see it? Like, what do you, like, honestly, like, you're going down there to see what? A ruin of a ship? Just go watch it online. Watch the movie. You'll be fine.
Guard was still saying in press conferences that it was a rescue mission, but it took 4 days for officials to find the wreckage after finally getting some remote submersibles that could search for the debris. 10 days after it disappeared, human remains were found. Banging sounds.
It seemed impossible, but just a few hours ago,
That was
signs
2
of
years
life
ago.
from a sonar, which acts like a bionic ear underwater.
It wasn't just wishful thinking that kept people searching for Titan on the surface, though. There were also widespread reports of banging sounds detected by sonobuoys dropped to listen for underwater noises. People were led to believe that the banging could indicate that the crew was alive and waiting to be rescued, again giving false hope to the families that they might be reunited with their loved ones.
Crews searching for the sub reportedly heard today banging sounds at 30-minute intervals.
The Coast Guard admitted that it didn't know what the banging sounds were, but others, including James Cameron again, theorized that it could have been noises from the ships in the area. It's also been suggested that it was the sound of the Titanic wreckage itself shifting and creaking at the bottom of the sea.
Right now, underwater drones are trying to confirm the source of that banging and to hopefully spot the missing sub.
The wreckage.
Debris was found right in that search area on the seafloor, just 1,600 feet away from the bow of the Titanic.
Though debris was found after a few days, no footage of the wreck was revealed until September 2024. The footage was released as part of the investigations, with separate clips showing the 2 sections of the sub on the ocean floor. This all proved exactly what we already knew, that it was the carbon fiber hull that failed. When another clip of the front of the Titan was released, the mangled carbon fiber was plain to see.
Seeing the debris, the pieces that were left over, kind of replaying what must have occurred.
A BBC documentary later showed some of the pieces of debris that were recovered and brought to the surface, including a pen thought to have been on Stockton Rush. They also recovered some stickers meant to celebrate the company and the dive to the Titanic.
Stockton would have understood the reality of an implosion being instantaneous and painless.
The hearings.
The Coast Guard has officially convened a Marine Board of Investigation led by Chief Investigator Captain Neubauer.
Throughout 2024, the Marine Board of Investigation held hearings to interview various witnesses and experts and determine how this had been allowed to happen. We heard chilling testimony, with people discussing how they expressed their concerns to Rush and were ignored, insulted, or in at least one case, fired from the company.
The term mission specialist was created by OceanGate to
give
the perception, to
my thing is, why would they be fired, but the CEO ignored everything? You see what I'm saying? Like why was the people fired? He got the reports on the submarine. Everything doesn't check off. He didn't care. Failed to tell the people everything is good to go, and he dies, and they get fired because of his
others and
ultimate
including
decision.
Regulators that these were really crew members when in fact they were paying passengers.
We also heard that people tried to notify the authorities that illegal dives were happening in an unregulated vessel, including for-profit expeditions, and that nobody acted to stop Rush in an official capacity. And finally, we heard many experts explaining how they would never in a million years gotten into an experimental submersible that made these design choices.
OceanGate came very, very close to killing me and has had a severe impact on my business as well as an entire industry.
Let us know in the comments.
Well, let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe, dislike if you dislike this video. Yeah. Man, some crazy stuff, man, going on in the world. Relax, okay? He's out.